I'm gonna come up, but don't worry about it. I won't start the show yet. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, did you go to Bennett College?
No, I went to Howard.
Oh, okay, okay,
My
yeah,
parents went to North Carolina A&T. That's where they
yeah.
met and married. Jesse went there. Jonathan went there. My baby sister went there. But you
Ah,
said went to UVA, and I went to Howard.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
knew you had. I knew the Reverend went to A and
A&T.
T. Yes,
That's where he and my
definitely.
mother met and married.
Uh huh.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah. So yeah, yeah. No, I am not an Aggie. I'm a Bison.
huh. Well, let your family know we're still fighting the battle down in Greensboro.
Okay, I will do that. But I'm gonna get you on the phone with Dad, but it'll be early in the day, and so that you can understand him because his mind's extremely sharp. He just has trouble speaking the later
Right.
you go in the day. And we're up in five. Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. There's so much that is going on as we speak. The police officers who participated in the killing of Tyree Nichols have been exonerated. So we pray for that family. We'll be talking about that more tomorrow. But we've got to talk about an executive order signed by President Trump, yet another, that will allow, as they say, cops to go wild. Let me know what you think about that. Hey, Bernadette, how you doing? Like and share, everybody. Like and share. Please, please reach out to me on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's the only place where I can get friends, everybody. Santita Jackson and Friends. And come on, join Bernadette and everybody on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there and share the show, everybody. Share it. And I'm on X at Santita J, at Santita J. And I am right here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I have a man for whom I have tremendous admiration and respect. He's a hero of mine, quite frankly. Um, I guess we got to know him. My parents got to know him more than 50 years ago, not just for his advocacy for the people, of course, his People's Law Firm, of which he is a founder. He has been Fred Hampton's lawyer. We revere Fred Hampton today, but he was public enemy number one when he was killed. And he became someone who was beloved. Or certainly he was better understood by the broader community after he'd been murdered at the behest of the FBI. That has been proved. And someone who really changed the narrative on Fred Hampton, the person who did that, was his lawyer, Attorney G. Flint Taylor, who's with us right now. And I think it's important to go back over that, Attorney Taylor, because I remember the morning that I woke up, I was on my way to school. And we had just seen him. He had just been at our Saturday morning meeting. And the television was taller than I was at that time. And to see this news story about someone, there were so many people when I was 5 and 6 and 7 who were being killed. It was a lot. It really, when I look back on it, I guess maybe I'm a little traumatized by it still. And it was frightening to see that he had been killed, and he had been killed in this shootout with the Chicago police. And it turns out it wasn't true. And the reason we found out that wasn't true because you went over to the apartment and you said all of the bullet holes are from the street. The police shot in and shot their way into that apartment and killed Mark Clark first, who was security that night. And then they almost killed his fiancee, who was pregnant with their son, Fred. She was very pregnant, heavily pregnant, more than 8 months pregnant. And oh boy, it's so disturbing. They dragged him out of the bed because he was still alive as much as they shot him. And they laughed and shot him and killed him. I'm so glad that you're with us, but you have so much experience in this space. The Torture Machine. The Torture Machine is your book. Everybody, you need to get it. Racism and police violence in Chicago. So when the president signs this executive order, that many people are saying that cops are already unleashed. This executive order is giving them permission to do whatever it is that they want to do. What does the EO say? Strengthening and unleashing America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. The fascinating piece in the Intercept about this. And when you say unleash, it's like they're free to go wild. There's a lot that you can read into the terminology: strengthening, unleashed. What does the executive order? What does it have the power to do? What is it? What is it empowering or allowing police officers to do, Attorney Taylor?
Well, you just mentioned the title of it, and I think that the real title of it here should be Strengthening and Further Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue even more aggressively other people of color, other poor people, and protect rich white people and the corporate class. That's really what this is all about.
That's a whole lot.
Yeah.
You put into it.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's when you read the order and you think about what Trump's doing, not only in law enforcement but across the board here. You know, it's a fascistic program, and it's the law enforcement, and I put quotes around that. The military, the police are always the front lines in enforcing fascistic policies. And he just wanted to make it clear in this executive order what, in fact, he wanted and what he expects police and the military to do when it comes to dealing with the people, poor and oppressed people in this country, and to further protect the corporate class, which he has permitted to run completely wild here under the guise of Dodge and wiping out all kinds of policies that help people.
What is this executive order about? I mean, you have absolutely encapsulated it. Why did he feel the need to write this executive order at this time? I mean, police officers are rarely convicted when they are absolutely in the wrong and kill people. I mean, Breonna Taylor's killers, they're free. You know, Kyle Rittenhouse walked away and his mother drove him. Attorney Taylor drove him with a gun to participate. How do you drive a teenager, your child? I don't understand this. I don't understand the thinking. And so I'm trying to find out, because authoritarianism is not new to the American experience. And Donald Trump did not introduce this into our bloodstream. It's been here. It's been here. But it's flowering in another, I mean, it's flowering. And it's I'd like to know what do you think is the thinking behind this executive order at this time? Because everything's got a frame.
Well, that's a good question. But the kind of attack, the broad-based attack that Trump is making across the board, whether it's DEI, whether it's the kinds of education, all of the things, we can line them up one right after the other. Healthcare, all these attacks, these things that have been in jeopardy to some degree, but the movements and the people have resisted and have in some ways, in some periods of time, actually expanded some of the coverage in these areas, and in fact have protected to some limited degree police from completely running wild. This is something that is unacceptable.
Ironic. Sorry, I can't help it. sirens that we're talking about.
Of course, we're in Chicago, right?
That's right.
Then hopefully they're not coming for me for what I'm saying right now. But
Well, they could be. That's the danger of this moment.
yes, that is absolutely correct. Um, but the mindset when you come to law enforcement, you got to see that hand in the back of Trump, which is Stephen Miller, who's just an avowed racist, white supremacist,
Wow.
and evilly intelligent. He's looking at this stuff in a way that Trump could never analyze. And they have sat there for this period of time in their racist mentality and chafed at the fact that police and law enforcement can have any kinds of restraints on them. And so this is just to say, well, you think that you can have a consent decree that actually calls for certain reforms in the police department? You think that bad cops can be fired? You think that occasionally cops can be actually charged with crime? Well, you got another thing coming. And if you think that people can protest against this, well, we're not just going to let the locals take care of this in their own police departments, who have plenty of ammunition, who have plenty of power. We're going to send in Homeland Security. We're going to send in ICE as appropriate. This is just, this is a blueprint for expanding law enforcement and expanding the racism and white supremacy behind so much of law enforcement. Those catchwords, we're going to pursue criminals. Well, we know what that means. That's poor people. That's people of color. We're going to protect innocent citizens. Well, we know what that means. That means those rich white folks. That means the corporate class that, doesn't like to have their buildings protested against. They don't like people calling them out for the money that they're spending. Um, this is a blueprint. They're putting into words and into an executive order, whether it'll be challenged, and I assume it will be. All of these orders are unconstitutional in one way or another, and a total usurping of executive power. Um, but it's the point. It's terrorizing people. It's terrorizing people with orders. It's terrorizing people with the idea or the selective. They can't send everybody to El Salvador, but they can send enough people to El Salvador. They can't really reopen Alcatraz, but they can make people think that they might reopen Alcatraz. And rendition, the thing that you mentioned, Santita, that these, in a way, this isn't new, right? This
Yeah.
kind of thing has been going on, but it has had to have been kind of undercover to some degree. Uh, Prior presidents couldn't exactly, get up there and trumpet the fact that, we're all for law enforcement doing whatever the hell they want to do, with whatever weapons at whatever time. Uh, this is just there's no cloak to it. There's no pretense. This is what we have done. We're going to do it right out in front in your face, and we're going to scare the hell out of everybody. And you better back off, or we're going to send you somewhere where the sun don't shine.
Well, I was reading to your point. I was reading in the article in Oklahoma. They reported a Latino woman with three children. She was at home, and her home was just raided. Just raided. They were looking for someone who was not a citizen. I don't know what his status was, but they said they were looking for undocumented immigrants who the corporations are bringing in here. I've been telling you that, everybody. The 10th Partnership for Refugees. These people are not just coming here. They're being chased out of their countries, and they're being brought here to work for cheap. This is a government program. Anthony Blinken, our Secretary of State, our former Secretary of State, signed an agreement with the man who created Kobani yogurt, the 10th Partnership for Refugees. Greg Abbott could take people just across the border. He's at the border, but he disperses. He has hired bus companies. They make a lot of money, And he is sending them all around the country so they can go to work. Don't get mad with them. What do they say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. But this woman was minding her own business. And this is what they write in The Intercept. The man had moved out months earlier, but it didn't stop there. This was a violent, as they characterized it, volatile raid over an alleged immigration violation. And after learning of their mistake, the agents, they were not apologetic. They were not contrite. They confiscated the family's computers, cell phones, and undisclosed amounts of cash. And when they were leaving, one of the agents said, I know it was a little tough for you. They've not returned their computers. They've not returned the cell phones. They've not returned the cash. What is this? I mean, is it just open season? Are people just, I mean, is everybody Breonna Taylor?
Well, that saying that they talked about in Germany, first they came to the Jews and I didn't do anything. And, I can go on. And yeah, maybe they haven't come for some of the folks and, so far, but they're coming for enough of them to let you know that we can come for you and we will come for you. But till they do, we got to keep on keeping on to whatever degree we can and to resist this, because they're also, to some degree, and I knock on wood with this, they're somewhat paper tigers as well. It's terrible is what they do, and when people stand up, a lot of times they do back off. And if you don't stand up, what happens? So you might as well stand up. You might as well speak out for what's right. I mean, that's what we have to continue to do. But yes, that's a terrible story in Oklahoma. And this, the story about, I mean, some of the wonderful lawyers I work with in New York are able to stop the sending of the Colombia activist to El Salvador and actually get a Vermont court to release him. But just think about the effort and the resistance that had to go to stop that, and they've already sent so many others there, and Trump's basically buying the planes to go there, and we know what kind of a concentration camp they're being sent to. I mean, again, it took the Intercept and other places to uncover the rendition back in the Iraq War when they were taking people to other countries and putting them in these kinds of concentration camps. They did it secretly. Now they're doing it right in our face.
But what is the point of putting these people? I mean, they're talking to Libya and Rwanda. Libya is a failed state that we own after we killed their leader, who has gone from being one of the wealthiest nations on earth, one of the most prosperous, to being one of the poorest, where they actually have people they're selling into slavery. I mean, and Rwanda, they're in talks with Rwanda. What on earth are we sending people to El Salvador, and we're thinking about sending them to Libya and Rwanda? What is this? What is the point?
The point is terror. The point is to, it's a fascist thing to do. It's like it's beyond authoritarianism. And it just, when you mix in the white supremacy of it all. I mean, what did I hear the other day? Oh, it was actually a very a joke, but of course it wasn't a joke. They were saying that the joke was that they're now looking at tattoos, and what are the tattoos? Well, they have to be on brown skin, and that was I heard, I think it was on Saturday Night Live, they said that. But, there's a lot of truth in that joke.
Absolutely.
And we've seen it. It's not like we haven't seen that people get prosecuted here in this country for, and part of the evidence against them is a gang tattoo to link them to other conspirators quote unquote, in a gang conspiracy, a RICO conspiracy. But all of this stuff is just being, just flaunted in a way and that's what this executive order is. Okay, we're going to attack public officials who, in fact, stand in the way of law enforcement doing whatever they feel they want to do. This is basically a out of the Fraternal Order of Police playbook. This is out of the right wing of the military's playbook, and they just put it in black and white.
Do you put the arrest of Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan, and now we just see that these three police officers who participated in the killing of Tyree Nichols in Memphis, um, yet another exoneration of the police. No one's going to be prosecuted in the killing of Breonna Taylor. Um, and these judges who are pushing back against these executive orders and against these deportations, which the courts are ruling illegal. Um, do you see all of this? Is all of this connected?
Oh,
You know what I'm thinking?
yeah. Obviously, they just go up the ladder, right? If they can't get what they want on one level because a judge stands in the way, because the judge has some courage to actually believe that they're there to enforce the Constitution and that there are laws that they have to follow and due process, um, then we'll go after that judge. I mean, you think about it when Trump was flailing around after he lost the election. One of the major, points of attack was all the judges that were ruling against him in all these cases. So now he has the power, he thinks, to go and basically cancel those judges, to nullify those judges. First of all, you call them, left-wing terrorist sympathizers. Then you go to a compliant U.S. attorney and say, give me a warrant for that judge. I mean, think about it. What is that? What kind of message is he trying to send to other judges who actually all they do is enforce the Constitution? Look what he's doing with regard to the special prosecutor who brought charges, Jack Smith. What's he doing?
What happened with Jack Smith?
Well, they're going after the law firms that Smith and others are in. And, some of the law firms, a few of them have stood up. But the biggest one, the one in New York, the Weiss firm with over 1,000 lawyers, totally folded. And they folded and struck a deal with Trump rather than to have their lawyers prosecuted by Trump's administration. And what they not only struck a deal to do was not to challenge Trump in court, but to give pro bono services to the kinds of causes he wants. And the causes that he wants to have free lawyers for is to push the Zionist cause, to bring lawsuits, slap suits against Palestinian organizations, and to use these free lawyers to continue to fight these cases. And they did it here with Northwestern. They were going after Northwestern, and because Northwestern supposedly, in their view, wasn't aggressive enough in dealing with the Palestinian demonstrations and sit-ins of this past year. So, yeah, I mean, go after the lawyers, go after the judges, go after anybody that resists. And in these kind of authoritarian regimes, they there's no holds barred. The judiciary is no longer any kind of stop against rampant executive power, because you totally and hopefully not successfully, are able to totally neutralize them and to drive them into to the same kind of fear that you're trying to drive the people in general into.
So ultimately, this is about instilling fear in lawyers, in the general population, and it makes us compliant and resistant to resistance.
Exactly. Yeah, that's certainly a huge part of it. And on the other hand, they're totally putting forward, white supremacist policies, white
Mhm.
uh, supremacist ideology. They're trying to completely wipe out people's history. They're trying to completely silence what they call, what's been characterized DEI, which
Mhm.
is just some attempt to have some kind of diversity in this public sphere and in the private sphere. But it's really in the same way that they attack wokeness and all those other. They're all attacks on uh, any attempt to speak truth to power and to educate our youth about really what this country has been involved in from the days that we took it from the native folks to slavery to the whole indictment of this country, which they don't want the children to know about.
But Attorney Taylor, when you talk about white supremacy, that falls on deaf ears for some people. You have a young woman, Shiloh Hendricks, that is the name that she is given to the public, who was in a park in Rochester, Minnesota, with her toddler on her hip. And she said a 5-year old black boy on the autism spectrum, perhaps she did not, God bless you, perhaps she did not know that he was on the spectrum. But he went over to her diaper bag and she said he was trying to steal from her. And she called him the N word. I promise you, when you see photos of her, she doesn't look like she was 30. She doesn't look like she is 30. The NAACP of Rochester has raised, according to press reports, little north of $340,000 for this boy and his family. She has had a GoFundMe um, that she moved off of GoFundMe and that she moved into, I guess, a Christian space. Help Me Save My Family is the name of her, I guess, of her campaign. She's raised more than $700,000. When you talk about white supremacy, she doesn't hear you.
Yeah,
She
well, see,
sees a 5-year old boy as a criminal.
well, that is white supremacy, isn't it? Isn't that the ideology that so many white people have adopted in this country? Which is, I mean, think about, remember the incident in Central Park with
Oh,
the African American man who was bird watching. And you think about, we could sit here all day and name situations where white supremacy and the attitude that is permeated about people of color in this country can lead to. Think about the 7 and 8 year olds here in Chicago that I was involved in representing when they had the predator black young black predator, so that was such a talking point pushed by Hillary Clinton among other people and Bill
yeah.
Clinton that could, and I still have his picture. I have his rap sheet on my wall here. 7 year old
A
Romar.
7-year old has a rap sheet.
Yeah, he has a rap sheet because they believed that he could have killed Ryan Harris, he and his 8 year old friend, if you remember back in the
Yes.
90s. That's white supremacy. That's the attitude that you're talking about here. That people, all right, it's a 5 year old, but he's black. So so he must have been stealing. I mean, that's the, I mean, a 7 year old can rape and kill an 11 year old. A 5-year-old, it's outrageous. But we have to fight back against all of that. We can't accept. Obviously, you're publicizing that, and it's scary that she could raise all that money for what purpose?
To
Save my
protect her family.
from what?
And to a 5-year-old, we've got a 7-year-old with a rap sheet. If he applies to go to a high school, a college, graduate school, they always ask you, have you been arrested?
Of course.
He will have to explain that for the rest of his born days.
The school to prison pipeline. And that's
Yes.
what we're talking about exactly. And if a poor black kid is in exactly the same situation in the school that a rich white kid is up in the suburbs, they're going to be tracked totally differently. And the young black kid is probably going to have a record before he's out of middle school, whereas the white kid is going to have all kinds of counseling and whatever is necessary to try to save him from whatever, he's not going to be tracked the same way. He's being tracked in another way.
Well, yeah, the white kids, the black kid's the drug dealer. The white kid's the entrepreneur out west in Colorado. Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy. Solomon said the executive order is federal only. States determine how their police respond to situations. He said he wants to know is this true or not.
Well, it's true and it isn't true. You're not supposed to. The military is not supposed to operate in this country. Posse comitatus, but that's what he's saying here. It's Homeland Security can augment local police. What he's trying to do is, not only support the most right wing aspects of the military police attitudes and philosophy. But he's trying to intimidate even further the forces, and they're not strong to begin with, within the police department, to give up on any kinds of reforms that might in any way alleviate the violence perpetrated by police agencies. So I think that even though it does supposedly only apply federally, what he's talking about here is local police. He's talking about funding local police. He's talking about going after local officials who don't conform in terms of how they approach the police department. He's talking about further funding local police. He's talking about giving more legal representation to local police. It's all about local police. It's about going into court and rescinding the consent decrees that local police are put under. I mean, for example, here, the city reluctantly under Rahm's administration agreed to a consent decree, as weak as it is, which gives some enforcement powers to the community and to enforce reforms. What he's saying is here and everywhere else, all the U.S. attorneys should go into federal court and rescind those consent decrees so that the police don't have what he calls handcuffs on them. But we might say they're little, being held by the wrist maybe a little bit on some of the more outrageous things that they do racially and with regard to violence and discrimination. So I think the answer is what he's trying to do is basically steer local police to an even more right-wing, violent perspective and enforcement than they already are doing.
What will that look like for us?
Well, we're starting.
I know that's very broad, but look, I grew up in Chicago, and I grew up with you, and so I'm wondering. See, we in Chicago, this show is based in Minneapolis, St. Paul, but people from all over the country listen. Homan Square. Could you tell people about Homan Square?
Yeah, Homan Square was like a police off-site place where they would take people from the west side that they picked up, and they were going to try to convert them into informants or to give information on others, alleged drug dealers, alleged gun people with guns, selling guns, that kind of thing. And so they would take people and there, and they would temporarily disappear them in the sense that no one knew they were there. Their family wouldn't know they were there. Their lawyers wouldn't know they were there. And then they would interrogate them there. And if they were in fact cooperative and would give information, then they wouldn't charge them. But if they did not give information or cooperate, they would charge them. And in some instances, they would also use violence against them. And they were doing this for over 20 or 25 years. It was like a centralized place where they could do what they were doing more episodically across the city, which would when they wanted to interrogate someone, they'd take them from one police station to another, so that you couldn't catch up with them as a lawyer or as a family member until they could get them to talk. So that's what Holman Square was about. They had a similar place down in Baton Rouge called the Brave Cave, where they would take people. And they just had to disband that, where they would brutalize people, take kids there, interrogate them. And it was an off-site place that, at least when you're taken to a police station, you're supposed to be booked. You're supposed to, it's supposed to be able to at some point contact a lawyer, contact your family. But while you're still in a Holman Square or a Brave Cave or being bounced from one police station to the next, you're in, you don't exist. It's like the local version of sending someone to El Salvador in a way, kind of a black site.
Well, but see, that takes me to your book, The Torture Machine, Racism and Police Violence in Chicago. Because Chicago's ground zero for so much. Like if you want to make it in show business, well, really in theater, they say if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. If you want to go into movies, you got to go to LA. TV to an extent. If you want to figure out how to survive politics and the police, pardon me for being a little alliterative, that was not on purpose, you got to come to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I mean, because you have come across so much in the decades in which you have practiced law. Let me go back before I even ask you about what fed your book and what you're working on right now. What was it in your lived experience that made you disbelieve the police and go to Fred Hampton's apartment hours after you'd been killed? Because you said that there was what was going through your mind? What made you go, and what were you looking for?
Well, it was a lot the people that I was working with. We had started the People's Law Office months before, and we were representing the Panthers. We were representing the Young Lords organization. We were representing the SDS, all the kinds of organizations that were in conflict and resisting the state at that point. I mean, we had the Vietnam War at that time, the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Liberation Movement was at a very, very strong point. The Panthers were becoming very powerful here and across the country. So as a kid, without any experience other than growing up in a small white community near Boston, coming out here, going to law school, being exposed to the realities of Chicago, the realities of the racism, of the violence of the police. And then, so because we were representing Fred Hampton, we got the call to go to the apartment that morning. And whatever, my mind and my heart and my soul were being, impacted by all of this that as a young man I was learning about. It's kind of a crash course in racism and in police violence that I was going through. that I guess the best way to put it is in those terms, it was the assassination of Fred Hampton was a master class in that, in going there as a young man and seeing the blood and seeing the bullet holes and understanding the huge lie that was being told at the highest levels of government. And working for 13 years to help to uncover that, along with the community and all the people and the Panthers and the victims of the violence. It was just something that brought me to an understanding that a lot of people, particularly white people, don't have because they haven't seen it, they haven't experienced it, they haven't. And I haven't experienced it in the same way that Fred Hampton experienced it, obviously, but I experienced it in a way that a lot of people haven't, in terms of being very close to it, having been impacted by not only the Panthers and Mrs. Hampton and Mr. Hampton and your family, but all of the torture survivors as well, and the strength that they all bring uh, out of the repression and oppression and racism that they've suffered. I think, that has given me a lot of strength to continue to try to do my bit in trying to resist.
See, your book is particularly needed now, um, because you describe this as a torture machine.
Yes,
I know that's what this Latina mother in Oklahoma must feel. I mean, they took all the things of value. I mean, substantial value. I mean, buying a computer is not easy to do. You have to pull together a lot of money. Your cell phones cost a lot of money. The cash that she had, that's gone. It's like they had a good time and raided her place. And if it can happen to her, it can happen to anybody. It's a torture machine. It's like it's a machine.
yeah. Well, a couple of thoughts on that. First, it has happened again and again in this city. I mean, there were so many complaints over the years that people would say, I got arrested. They took, $78. I never got it back. They tore up my apartment. They called me all sorts of racist names. Those complaints would just basically go in the dustbin. They would never sustain any of those complaints. But bringing cases, we would see how systemic it was. People, would again and again be treated that way by the police. That with the dehumanization of people, the treating of people as less than human beings. That's what the Oklahoma situation is highlighting, and that you're highlighting as well. But the machine aspect of it, the torture machine, was because not only was there a torture machine, the box, the electric shock box, but it was part of the political machine. The police department is, the enforcement arm of the Chicago and other, political organizations. But here, it had a name, right? The daily machine, the
Mm.
political machine. So the torture machine was about not only torture with a box, a machine, but it was about the machine. It was a furtherance of the machine.
Well, Solomon Harris says that Trump is doing this executive order, President Trump, to get the illegal migrants because a lot of police are hand tied by their local governments. Do you agree with that?
No, absolutely not.
Hmm.
Um, First of all, Trump is doing this for exactly the reasons that we've said he's doing it for. And the what is happening in this city to some degree and other northern cities is, that the Constitution is being honored, that this kind of illegality that ICE and Trump wants to impose upon people, particularly people from South and Central American countries, um, there's resistance to that, and that's righteous. And I think that that view is unfortunately a very sadly mistaken view that there's some kind of legitimacy to what Trump is trying to do, and that ICE is trying to do. It's just terror. That's all it is.
Because the fact is, Attorney Taylor, they're not deporting these migrants. They're deporting people who support Palestinian rights. They're
Right.
the, they're going after them. They're not deporting the farm workers.
No, I mean, it's ridiculous to think that, I mean, migrants and have are such a strong part of this country, and so such a strong part of the workforce. They always have been, whether it be the Irish, well, of course, think about what Black people have contributed. They were involuntary migrants to this country, and they have built this country in very large measure, as have so many of the migrants starting, from Europe, those coming from Europe, and then more recently from people or countries of color. Yeah, so I could go on, but I don't need to
Well, no,
preach.
I think you do because we're going up against the corporate media who have shaped the narrative in that particular way. Um, they make much about these raids, and I think these raids upon anybody, I think they're horrible. I mean, Mahmoud Khalil and his wife were on their way. He was captured in his lobby. These people didn't even identify themselves, Attorney Taylor. That's
No.
frightening.
Well, there's that woman in Boston that they
Yes.
grabbed off the street, and I see there's a comment from Ms. Faulkner Webb.
Yeah.
Uh, we need to be clear. He's planning on sending U.S. citizens to these countries. Yeah, I mean, he's going to do whatever he can do. I mean, yeah, and you pointed out quite rightly. It's focused on Palestinian activists, and it's focused on other activists. So uh, that's really where it's all going. It's not like he's going to clean out this country of all people of color or people who may not be, quote, legally, end quote, in this country, because so many folks are here because they have to be here because they fled other countries and regimes, and they contribute to this society and they contribute to this country. The country wouldn't run if he was successful in sending all, quote, illegal immigrants out of the country. That's not that's not possible. That's not, you know,
They're not going to do it. They're not.
no.
But Solomon says he's very active here, and I appreciate it. They're using this as a deterrent for crime. Is this a deterrent for crime? Is that what this is for?
No, no.
I'm just asking. I'm just asking because it's out there. You know what? And Solomon, for my portion, as you answer this, Attorney Taylor, I'm glad he's putting this out there because a lot of people believe this until they break down your door.
Well, it's not a deterrent to crime. I mean, crime has so many different factors and variants, but one of the primary things is it's economic based. And so you're not going to, so somebody's not going to be involved in some kind of illegal activity because of some fear to be sent to Alcatraz. I mean, that hasn't worked. We've had draconian laws, going all the way back to the war on crime. They enhanced all the sentences again and again. You got the death penalty. What does that do? That's not a deterrent. All of this has been proven not to be a deterrent. So I mean, that's just the kind of cover that they use when they want to enhance again and again sentences. And that Trump's talking about enhancing sentences. I mean, once again. He's restoring the death penalty once again. All the kinds of things that this country has been so behind in terms of human rights. Most countries don't have the death penalty anymore, but we do. And Trump's trying to bringing it back in the federal system. So no, I don't buy deterrent in any regard.
What should we be I have about 6 or 7 minutes left here. What should we be on the lookout for? I mean, do we have any rights? I mean, due process. I don't. I don't even know where to begin. Due process is. It's not dead, but it is certainly under threat.
Yes, it's under threat, and we have to defend it. As lawyers have a very important role in that. But also, people, turned out on May Day, the people who turned out for the prior demonstrations, people who, continue to educate in the face of the kinds of attacks that they're being subjected to. Unions, fighting for working people, strengthening unions. All of that is important because if we don't do these kinds of things, if we don't resist, if we, people are going to court. ACLU is doing a lot in terms of challenging a lot of these executive orders. Groups that deal with immigration and represent migrants, so they're challenging some of these executive orders. And also being under attack is that what we have. We already have a very weak corporate media class, but he's trying to further intimidate those forces. And you think about that verdict that happened out in on North Dakota against Greenpeace
Mhm.
for speaking the truth about energy transfers, and that they were able to manipulate an all-white jury in North Dakota to give a $667 million verdict for defamation for Greenpeace supporting the indigenous struggle that happened at Standing Rock. And so, those kinds of things have to be, you have to expose the realities of those cases and fight back against these cases.
Well, before we go, I want where do you see? Do you see? We've seen a judge arrested, and we see the judiciary under attack. What about these progressive prosecutors? What do you think is going to happen to them?
Well, they're under attack too. You see, of course, Chesa Boudin, who was trying to deal with prosecuting some of the more egregious police officers in San Francisco and dealing with bail reform and the kinds of things that Kim Foxx was dealing with here. The FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, organized and basically recalled Chesa, and Kim, after 8 hard-fought years, resisting the kinds of attitudes that prosecutors and police have about law and order, and she made some meaningful reforms. I think she got weary of it. She was, I remember standing with Reverend Jackson and Bobby Rush and others to defend her when the FOP was attacking her around the Jesse Smollett case, which they
Yeah.
made into such a huge issue, not because it was such an egregious event in and of itself, but because it was a way to attack her and her policies. But there are a very strong group of progressive prosecutors across the country. Um, and hopefully they will be able to, continue to resist some of the more outrageous law and order pieces that Trump and others are putting forward.
Yeah, I'll put before you give a closing comment. I want you to. I appreciate Solomon. I don't agree with with your perspective, but I certainly respect it. And I guess you are representative of a point of view, which is why I'm not picking on you today. I'm pulling you out because I do. This is a brilliant, brave lawyer. Um, its lawyer doesn't even begin to cover all that Attorney G. Flint Taylor has meant, does, or any of that. But I'd like you to speak to what he said. He said, I'm all for this EO. if it's going to get shoplifters arrested and the real criminals off the streets and illegals rounded up. What say you?
I say that's a scary position to have.
Why is that
Uh,
scary?
well, it basically is talking about supporting fascism. I mean, he's talking about he's putting himself in the category of that woman who thought the 5-year-old autistic black kid was stealing. Uh, he's talking about the kinds of attitudes that have stained this country from beginning to end, and makes it not a justice system, but a system that's designed to oppress people of color and poor people, and it's a two-tiered system of justice. You know that shoplifter, if he or she's black, is going to be treated one way, and that shoplifter up in the white suburbs is going to be treated another way. So yeah, Trump's EO may get that black shoplifter, one out of 5 of them off the street, but it's also going to send that poor black woman who might have stolen a loaf of bread to the penitentiary, while the Solomons of the world are just going to be coasting down, Main Street doing whatever the hell they want to. And so, I think that's very, very disturbing. I don't know how intentional he is. Sometimes the Trumpers assign people to shows like yours to keep raising these kinds of issues.
Mm-hmm.
He would fall in that category if I were guessing, because, what he's having to say really doesn't do anything but further upset me the same way that this executive order itself does.
Absolutely. And Paula, I mean, nobody's safe. You said your Italian American friend was asked by a local bank when he made a large deposit. They wanted to know where he got the money from and what he plans to use it for. There's prejudice against Italians, absolutely, in South Philadelphia. You know what, Paula? You're right. And I think that one of the points I think that you've made in closing, Attorney G. Flint Taylor, and I urge everyone to get the book, The Torture Machine, Racism and Police Violence in Chicago. It's not for Chicago only. Minnesota, it's for you. South Carolina, it's for you. New York, it's for you. It's for you. It's for you wherever you are. It's for you, because it's all one country, and this is what we're dealing with right now. And oh my goodness, I mean, so where do we go from here? I mean, is there a way for us to push back against this executive order? Uh, does this mean that we've lost more rights?
Hmm. Well, let me say first, my mom is Italian, so I can understand. My grandparents came over on the boat, so I understand how Italian Americans, Irish Americans, classes, particularly persons, poor persons, whether they of color or of another group from across the water, can be discriminated against. A perfect example of that.
Mhm.
All I can say, Santana, is I don't know how this is going to end up, but we're here, and we have to do what we can. You're doing what you can. You're getting the word out. You're highlighting the atrocities as they cross your news desk every day. You're bringing people on to talk about them, to call them out, to call them for what they are. It's a form of education in the same way as writing books, articles, going to demonstrate all those kinds of things, because we can't just sit here and let this happen. We may go down in flames, but we better be go down in flames than to go down in handcuffs with a little star on it, that says that we're Italian, or it says that we're black, or it says that we're Jewish, or whatever, or Palestinian. So that's what Trump's driving for. That's what he wants to do.
And and we are one. And so I appreciate you, and I thank you for making the time. I know that this is a big chunk of your day, and I am so honored that you would share this. uh, share this time with me and this audience. We really appreciate this, and I think you're helping us to be vigilant, because if we're not, boy oh boy, when you lose a liberty, it is hard to get it back. Everybody. What did the woman ask Benjamin Franklin when he came out of Constitution Hall? What kind of government have you given us, sir? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now is our moment, everybody. It's a republic if we can keep it. That's our charge. The torture machine, racism and police violence in Chicago, you've got to get the book. It is more it is more needed now. It is more apropos now than when you wrote it. Then it was prescient. Now it's contemporary. Yikes. Attorney Chief Flake Taylor, the people's lawyer, sending you so much love. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, the Santita Jackson Show.
Thank you, Santita.